my devotion to my Lord and Savior and my family are probably the biggest reasons that kick me into gear every morning, get me going. And then it's just helping other people, just watching them grow. Even single people, I help them get into their homes. It's one of the, like I said before, I think it's one of the best things you can do for your future self, your future family.
Welcome to the Dream Home Podcast, the show where real estate meets real talk. Hosted by John Nagle, a seasoned expert with over $7 billion in real estate financing experience. This podcast features top realtors, builders, and financial pros. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, we've got the tools to help you make smarter moves. Here's your host, John Nagle.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Dream Home Podcast, where we explore the communities, people, and programs that help turn your dream of homeownership into reality. I'm your host, John Nagle with CMG Home Loans. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Phillip Parisi, the founder of Sea Flag Homes, a premier real estate group serving Florida's beautiful Treasure Coast. With over 24 years of experience, hundreds of happy clients, and the heart of a teacher, Phil has built a business and a reputation around honesty, personalized service, and building raving fans. Today, we'll uncover Phil's journey, his approach to helping clients navigate today's market, and some expert advice you won't want to miss. Let's dive right in. Phil, thanks so much. We appreciate your taking time to join us here on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. So Phil, let's kick things off with a big one. What would you say are your superpowers as a realtor? What sets you apart from others serving the Treasure Coast?
Yeah, so I mean, it's always an interesting question. It's not really superpowers in my opinion. It's just like, any sport, going back to the basics, right? I'm a Christ follower, and I truly believe you do unto others as you want done unto yourself. So, just taking care of people, giving them service. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Communication, letting them know through the process, everything you've done to either help them along the journey, listening to their wants and needs, and trying to deliver a personalized plan, because everybody's so individualistic today. There's not a one size fits all. So you have to take that time to really get to know their needs and wants.
Yes, absolutely. It's really important to get to kind of dig in there to find out exactly what their goals and objectives are and how you can really help them get the home that's best suited for exactly what they're looking to achieve, for sure.
Yes, sir.
So that's incredible. I loved your analogy on the sports analogy with, because it really is, it's blocking and tackling. It's doing those basic things and doing them every day and consistently to make that path smoother for those home buyers. So when people work with you and your team, what's the one thing they usually say they're most impressed by?
I think if I had to narrow it down to one thing that they like most about me is the fact that I over communicate, right? And I keep them, I kind of keep them in charge of the process. Whatever comes up, before I go back and try to negotiate on their behalf, I go have a conversation with them. Like, hey, this is what I'm thinking, what you're thinking. Let's bounce ideas off of each other. It takes time, but I think it helps. Keeping them involved in the process helps out a lot.
Yes, absolutely. So buying or selling a home can feel overwhelming, especially for first-timers or relocators. How do you help guide your clients through these big, sometimes emotional decisions?
Oh, gosh. So, I always like to have the conversation with them that buying or selling a home is going to be one of the most stressful things you ever do in your life. Hands down, it's up there with like public speaking, right? There's a lot of moving parts, and I think you have to have that conversation with them. Even though doing real estate this long, you just kind of take it for granted that everybody knows that. They really don't. They might buy or sell a home every 5-10 years. And so it's like a brand new process to them. And so you have to sit down and tell them it's okay to be overwhelmed. It's okay to call me up and yell at me if you need to get some of that stress off your chest, because you've got a lot of moving parts. For me, it's a check, right? I'm going to make a paycheck, which is great. That's why I do this. I support my family. But for them, this is, are my kids going to be able to go to sleep in their home tonight? Am I going to be stuck in a hotel? How do I get the movers lined up? How do I, how do I pack up my home? They really need that certainty of where they're going, where they're going to be. And it can be, it's very uncertain until you get, the clear to close with the buyer, and the seller gets it as well, because if they're selling a home, they've got to have somewhere to go, you do have the investor every once in a while where it's not as pressing, but for the most part, especially somebody who's moving into that home, whether they're a first-time home buyer or repeat buyer moving up or moving down, they have to have that certainty. They don't have that luxury typically of buying the new home, moving in, getting settled, and then selling the old home. So.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of coordination. And you're right. That certainty is huge to be able to know that you are going to close for sure, especially that seller that has to close on the new home and close on the existing home before they close on the new home. And we find that being scheduled on the same day in the majority of the time. So again, it's a lot of work to make sure all that happens together.
I mean, the simultaneous is even worse. I tell people all the time, I'm like, it becomes a domino effect. You've got to be ready for these ups and downs. And I always tell them, pray for the best, but plan for the worst. Have a contingency plan, because even though all of us are hoping and wanting the same goal, anything can come up. The underwriter wakes up in a bad mood. They read your file and they say, "Oh my goodness, I don't have the employment verification." Or they misplaced it. Like, I sent it to them 20 times. How don't they have it? Like, listen, just have it ready. Email it. Beyond, whatever it is. If you have your file ready, if they're missing something, you can hit send, because, we all get busy. It's just, we're all human. So.
Absolutely. So can you share a story where you helped a client overcome a major challenge, maybe a tricky negotiation, tough market condition, or personal situation?
Yeah, I mean, I've helped hundreds of people in my career. Very blessed and fortunate to say that. And it's you always get that client that says, "Was I your hardest sale?" I'm always like, no, it's always different. It's always interesting. I mean, I've helped a veteran buy a home with almost like $1,000 out of pocket. You can't even rent a home without first last security. So for $1,000, now, he's a veteran, so he used his VA benefit, 100% financing. We got the seller to kick in a little bit of money, but he also got some down payment assistance, through one of the great programs here offered in Florida. I know you have Hometown Heroes, but this was before that. This was actually Florida housing bond money. But to get into your first home as a veteran, and utilizing the programs that are afforded to you, it was just awesome. I mean, he was shocked. He was like $1,000, and it was just the money he had to put down to get the offer accepted. So it was kind of cool for him and his wife and children to have a home of their own. And I really try to educate people. Home ownership, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of 99% of the people, is probably one of the biggest things you could ever do for yourself, your future self, and your family. They're as opposed to renting. I mean, don't get me wrong. As an investor, you love great renters, but I always tell them, I said, I think you should do yourself a favor and build that equity, pay down the mortgage. I'm like, even if the market doesn't go up, which we all know it's going to go up over 30 years. But even if it didn't, it's like a forced savings, right? Where if you're renting, what do you have? You have nothing. You have the fact that you help somebody else with another investment property. So do yourself a favor, in my opinion, and get at least that first home under your belt.
Yeah, that's a great story, and I it's so much fun to help those that have served our country in that way, and to get them into a home, and to do it on such a low cash out of pocket basis. And I think a lot of people don't realize that those opportunities are there with the seller credits that's available. Sometimes we get involved with lender credit as well, and so it's truly awesome to help those that have served our country and made possible what we have here today that we can.
Well, it is, and it's. To me, I'm So I'm a member of Homes for Heroes, not to be confused with Hometown Heroes. Hometown Heroes here in the state of Florida, as I'm sure you know, is a great down payment assistance program.
That's
Homes for Heroes is just a thank you for being a hero. And they'll say, can I use both? And the short answer is yes, because Homes for Heroes is not down payment assistance. It's literally a thank you for being a hero. And what it is I essentially take part of my commission and give it back to them. So, somebody buys a $400,000 house, they're going to get a $2,800 bonus from me that they can use at closing or come a week or two after closing as a thank you for your service. And that's going to be whether you're military, active or retired, whether you're a teacher, a police officer, fireman, a healthcare worker, or a school board employee. So it's an awesome program. It was born out of 9/11, and it's a way to give back to our local community, which, I think everybody has somebody in their family that's either been a teacher or a nurse or served this country, or a police officer or fireman, have served this country or this community in some capacity. So something that's kind of dear to my heart, giving back to those guys,
Yeah, that is a fantastic program to give back to our service members in the community. That's for sure.
Amen.
So I love this part of the show. Let's talk about something awesome. Tell me about a client success story that really sticks with you. One where you knew you made a huge difference.
Gosh, I mean, I had that veteran where we got him into the home for out of pocket was pretty cool. It's pretty huge. Had another one, just great guy, another veteran. The first one just happened to be a Marine Corps guy. This guy was in the Navy. This the cool guy buying a house in Jensen, and we have to be ready to pivot in real estate, right? We got to know things. I mean, this is our job. This is our career. So I always look at it kind of like, again, a sports analogy, right? Steph Curry, probably one of the best shooters ever to play the game of basketball. But what he does when he's not working is what it contributes to that. He's doing 500 shots a day, just over and over, repetitive, perfecting his craft. And that's kind of our job as realtors, right? We got to know the market inside and out. We've got to be able to educate them on what the market's doing to put them in the best position to negotiate for the best terms for them, whether they're buying or selling, right? We have to, I always tell people, we have to sell in the market we're in, not the market we want, right? And the same thing, we're buying in the market we're in, not necessarily the market we want. So whether it's a buyer's market, a seller's market, or neutral market, the realtor has to educate the people about that because they're not doing it every day. And a lot of that comes with knowing your numbers, knowing the stats to help educate them, to put them in the best possible position, right? So I pride myself on making sure I know the stats, knowing properties, going out there and seeing them, kind of get a good idea of values of homes. And I've done a lot of training to do that, right? Like not just experience, but the training where I've gotten my CRS, my GRI, my ePro, and my PSA, which are all designations through the National Association of Realtors. It just adds to my training. So I'm always learning, always trying to stay abreast of what's happening. And so I utilize that for this other veteran, this Navy guy. He's buying a house and the appraisal comes in lower than we expected. And, you got to educate them. It's not that it's a bad appraisal. I don't like that terminology. Somebody say, oh, it's a bad appraisal. That's not accurate. An appraisal is an art. It's not a science, and it's opinion of value. You can get 10 appraisers and get 10 different values. It's all within certain guidelines. There's certain guidelines to keep these values. So, it's not like this is what you're worth to the penny, right? It's going to be a big range because you're dealing with a large number, right? So if you're buying or selling a diamond ring and it's worth 10 grand, it might vary as much as $1,000. Not a big deal, but that's 10%. When you're buying a $400,000 home, that's 40 grand. That's 10%. That's a big swing for somebody, but you can get one that's a little bit more conservative, one that's a little higher. In this case, it was conservative. We had to go back and And I'm sure it's hard to get an appraiser to change the value. You really have to have a very compelling comp and a way to move it. And we successfully did that, which was awesome because it got that veteran into that home. And it's not an easy feat, but it's something I'm proud of because it was something where I had to add a lot of value in order to get it there. And knowing the market, knowing the statistics, and writing a compelling argument kind of helped teeter it just enough to get us where we needed to be and get them into their home. So
yeah, that's really going the extra mile. And I'm sure moments like that really fuel your passion. What keeps you inspired every day to continue helping families on the Treasure Coast?
Oh gosh, yeah. So I love my job in the fact that I get to help people not only achieve the American dream, which sounds cliche, but there's some truth to that. But I also help my family, right? I'm a family man. I have 6 children, so I have 6 compelling reasons to wake up and hustle 7 days a week, and my beautiful wife of 18 years. So I'd say, my devotion to my Lord and Savior and my family are probably the biggest reasons that kick me into gear every morning, get me going. And then it's just helping other people, just watching them grow. Even single people, I help them get into their homes. It's one of the, like I said before, I think it's one of the best things you can do for your future self, your future family. And just watching them get into it and then watching their families grow and they watch my family grow. I truly believe in the friends helping friends. We start off as not really knowing each other, but taking that time to talk to each other, finding out their wants and needs, and just talking to them like a person, not really trying to sell them on anything, just genuinely interested in them, their families, their careers, and what they're trying to achieve. And also talking to them about mine, why I do what I do. We kind of build that friendship. And so I find that's what really makes it worth it to me. It's just from doing this 24 years, from going to just a core group of people I know to hundreds of people that I'm in contact with throughout the year who, I'll take a 20 minutes, half hour here or there to just chat with them, catch up, and they're catching up on me. It's just kind of cool, and I think just the connections and the relationships, I think, really kind of push me more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that generational wealth that you're creating for those families, especially the first time home buyers, and maybe they're the first in their, in their family history to be able to get into the home and find out what all those benefits are. And it's got to also be truly inspiring for your children to watch what their dad is doing in your faith-based mission and getting helping customers and they're growing and learning, just because they're around, all your activities with helping people buy and sell homes.
Yeah, well, I always hope so, and part of that conversation with these people is when you're narrowing it down, sometimes it's not right for them to buy a home. Mm-hmm. And they appreciate that honesty, because they'll tell them, they'll say, look, could you qualify? Maybe, but is this the best time to put you in? I don't want you to be house rich and cash poor. You've got to do it the right way. Let's talk about your budget. Let's talk about, and I'm one of the Dave Ramsey, we used to be called Endorsed Local Providers. Now we're called Ramsey Trusted. And I subscribe to that philosophy. One of the few things I think you should go into debt for is your home, but do it the right way, right? Let's not get you you don't want to be into debt past your nose where you can't breathe, right? You got to have that breathing room, and you got to plan, because you're building a life, right? It's not just about buying a home. It's not just about this, having wealth forever. But you want to be secure, and you want to enjoy yourself, enjoy your family, enjoy the fruits of your labor. So you have to have that, where am I now meeting? Where do I want to be? How do I get there? And how do we do it in a way that you're not going to feel overwhelmed or burnt out in the process, or call me up in 6 months and a year and yell at me that the property taxes are higher than you thought. And I didn't go over the fact that if you buy a home and somebody has homestead, You might benefit from their taxes this year, but be ready for that tax shock the next year. And so I think, again, you educate them on those things before they buy the home, not after, so that they can kind of plan their budget around a payment, because the principal and interest, is typically fixed, which is great. The taxes and insurance, as you know, are not. Mm-hmm. So, and when they get those letters once a year that say you either have an overage or a shortfall, we want to prepare them so that they're at least making good decisions today with correct information.
Right. So let's talk about the tools and resources you use, whether it's technology, strategies, or services. What are some of the things you provide that really enhance the client experience?
Gosh, technology is huge today. It's the internet and technology has changed the way we do business drastically in every aspect, not just real estate. And in the next few years, it's going to change again. It's always like that new iPhone or that new computer or that new this and new that, right? Better cameras, better this, better that. And we know it's going to happen. We know it's happening as we're speaking. So you want to stay abreast of everything between the AI technology and everything else, virtual staging, everything you can do. I joke around with people and I'm like, open houses are great today, right? They're great for me as an agent, because I might get somebody off the street who just happens to come by, and now I get a potential customer I can work with. But with the internet today, your home is virtually an open house 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, right? Like, you can do videos and pictures, and you can look up statistics on schools, crime rates, everything you can possibly want is literally a keystroke away. And most of these websites are giving it to you. So floor plans on the home. So, this technology is there if you utilize it. And I'm a firm believer in hire a great photographer for the pictures, a videographer to do the video, not a slideshow, a real video, something that somebody can actually walk through. Get kind of a video of the area if you can, so they can kind of see, what does it look like to be in Florida's Treasure Coast? What does it look like to be in Port St. Lucie? What does it look like to be in Stewart? What is the dining, the restaurants? What does all of that look like? And with all this technology out there, you just tie it in and you give it to them. And apps, I have an app for C-Flag Homes, because it gives you that you can go to my personal app and look at everything that's out there, get all that information, everything you want at your fingertips. Mortgage calculators, what's it going to cost me? Insurance quotes, title quotes, you name it. And so it's all tying in to make everything a lot easier and user-friendly for the consumer, which I think is a great advantage. Strategies, again, knowing your market, knowing what's going on with your market is key, in my opinion. It's hard to advise you whether you're buying or selling if I don't know what position I can put you in based on today's market, right? If we're in a seller's market and you're buying a home, we have to position your offer to be very attractive to the seller. And some people think it's just price, and that's not true. So whoever's going to give us the biggest dollar amount, that's not true. Certainty, right? If I can get you approved in 10 days or 15 days, that the seller knows you're buying my house in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, that might mean more to them than an extra 5 or 10 grand, just because they have to pack up their house and move. And then when we're in a buyer's market, which we've shifted to today, we're not in a crazy buyer's market, but we are in a buyer's market. There's more inventory today than there has been. The days on market are high. I can go over all that data with anybody at any point in time, because I keep it at my fingertips. But now you're kind of in the driver's seat, but you also have to have a little bit of understanding that you're not going to steal a home, right? It's not the days of 2012 when prices were just crazy low because of the short sales and the foreclosures. This go around, we have people who not only have equity but can stay in their home and weather this out if need be, right? But you do have opportunity, and the opportunities, whether it's new construction or resale, are there, and we can structure a deal to make it very favorable for you, whether it's buying down the interest rate, paying your closing costs, or a mixture of their, of either or. But getting you into a home again without even being a veteran today, like the story earlier about the veteran who used his VA benefit was awesome. But you could have an FHA buyer, first time home buying FHA today. And because the seller can contribute and because of the down payment assistance programs, they can virtually get into a home for little to nothing out of pocket, depending on what they qualify for, right? But if they qualify after having a conversation with somebody like yourself to see what they qualify for, we can then turn around and see, hey, maybe we get the seller to kick in 3%. Now you got the down payment assistance money. And I think July 1st, the Hometown Heroes is getting a big injection of money, right? Did I hear that correctly?
I think that is correct, yes.
Yeah. So I think that's going to help out a lot of buyers. And the Hometown Heroes is great, especially they opened it up to everybody. So you qualify for that, you're going to get to utilize that. And it's not free money. You do have to pay it back, but where can you get a $30,000 or so some odd loan that you don't have to pay $1 on and no interest accrues for up to 30 years? And I'm going to give you 30 grand today. You can pay me back in 30 years. And it doesn't matter inflation. You just have to give me back the 30 grand.
Right.
It's a sweetheart of a deal. And then you throw that in conjunction with the seller kicking 3 or 4% in. You're getting into that home for next to nothing on pocket. I mean, you go to rent, you're going to have to come up with first-class security. You don't have to do that today. So it's an awesome opportunity for a lot of first-time home buyers, and they're just not getting the message, in my opinion. And I think we need to change that a little bit. Like, hey, let's get the message. We can get you into some homes. Yes, the interest rate is higher than it's been that you're used to, but historically, it's still a great rate. I mean, and people say, well, you're biased. You're right. I am. I'm in real estate. I make money if you buy or sell with me. But go look at the data. You can look it up yourself. Like I tell everybody, what's great about the internet today, the information is there. You don't have to take Phil's word for it. Go look it up yourself. Do a search and see what the average rate has been historically. And you can see this is a great rate in comparison. So you take that in conjunction with getting the credits from the seller. And if you have some money to put into it, you can buy down your rate. So there's opportunity, big opportunity in this market that I think people are just underutilizing right now.
Yeah, I agree. We have a program called Rate Rebound. So for 5 years, we will refinance for free, which means no origination fees, no processing fees, waive the appraisal. So it ends up being a very low cost refinance, and that protects our buyers for the next 5 years on their loans. And so there are programs.
We know the rate's going to come down. We know it's going to come down.
Yep.
Right. So what's awesome about that is we know it's going to. We don't know how much. We don't know when. But you're giving them 5 years. Hey. 5 years, you can refinance and get a better rate, even if you pay a little bit extra. But again, historically, you're still low. I mean, when I started in 2001 selling real estate, they were, when the rates dropped to like 6 and 5s and in that area, they were just falling all over themselves. And everyone was like, the rates are never going to be this low. And it stayed that way for like 20 years. COVID was an anomaly with 2 and 3%. Right. But 5 and 6 was a great rate. Where we're at now is still a great rate. It's just that they're not used to it because it's been 20 years of living high on the hog, as they say.
Right. Well, and right now is a great time to buy for the very reasons you said, is that the buyers have a little bit of an advantage right at the moment. We're able to get some seller credits. Once these rates go down, experience has proven that all of a sudden you're going to be back to the multiple offers, sometimes doing escalating offers and things like that. So it's a great time to buy right now. So
great time to negotiate right now for a buyer. That's for sure. They're in a great position if they can get into a home. And I think it's worth a conversation. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And if someone is getting ready to list or buy right now, are there any special tips or strategies you recommend to make the process smoother?
So I joke around with people about this, but there's a lot of truth to it, right? You go to the doctor and the doctor tells you this is what I think is in your best interest. They're the professional, right? They're educated. They've gone to school. Hopefully they have some experience, and you're going to listen to their recommendation. You might even go for a second or a third opinion. But if you don't follow it, or you're in the hospital and you decide you want to leave, they're going to have you sign a paper that says AMA, against medical advice. And I want to come up with a form that says ARA, against realtor advice, right? Especially with your sellers today. I mean, they're great people, but it's so, you come in and you go and you show them the values. And today I'm having a conversation, price versus value. And I'm trying to really get them to understand that, yes, the value might be there, which is great when it comes to the appraisal, or we're not going to have an issue. But the market dictates the price. And so no matter how you cut the fat, when we were in a seller's market, the values were always under, and we were fighting appraisals. We were seeing people make offers and they're going to pay $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 above the appraised value just to get in that home, because that's what they wanted. And as they did that, because the market is people, the market is volatile, as they did that, they just pushed the market up. It was kind of reminiscent to me of 2004, 5, and 6, when the market went crazy, and then we had the big bubble burst, as they would say back then. And the appraisal management company was born out of it because it was supposed to stop it from happening. Clearly, it didn't work because we had what I like to call the big COVID boom. And they were paying over it, and they were pushing up the values. But that was the idea behind it, is that the consumer said it was the realtor's fault. The realtor said it's the banks, and the banks said it's the appraisers, and the appraiser said, if we didn't come into value, we didn't get work. So here's this appraisal management company is going to stop all that. Ha ha ha. It's the market. The market is people. So they pushed it up. They pushed it up again. They drove the values up. Well, that's who sets the price, the market, just like whether you're buying stocks or bonds. So the market is talking today. And as a seller, you might say, well, what's my home worth? What's it worth from a value standpoint to an appraiser is one number. And I can have this certified appraisal done for you. Here's the certified appraisal. Here you go. You can look it over. You can read it over. And it's great. It's a nice piece of paper. You can hang it on your wall if you want. But what's the market going to bear? What's the market going to pay for your home? That's the question. So if you come in my opinion, if you put your home at the market value, you're probably too high today, because the consumer is saying prices need to come down, and that's what we're seeing. Again, it's not a huge drop, but we are seeing a 3 to 5% drop on average. So you got to sell in the market you're in, not the market you want, like I said earlier. So take that into consideration. Get ahead of the curve. Get ahead of the curve. No, the homes we're going to sell because of price 90% of the time. Okay. Marketing is going to help. Pictures, writing a great description, all that stuff's going to help it. Nobody's going to pay $100,000 more because you got these great pictures and this great description than they feel it's worth. They still want to be what they want to be, just like you would be if you're buying. You want to get the best deal you can. So you're looking at what everybody else is doing and who looks a little bit better than everybody else. And if you can look a little bit better than everybody else, you're going to get more attention, which is going to equal a sale in today's market, right? And be prepared. Be prepared to throw in a little bit of an incentive of a closing cost or this, that, and the other. But again, they'll say, hey, well, this is my number. And I get that. But you got to decide, do you want to wait until the market shifts? Do you get the market you want? Or do you want to sell in the market that's in and move on? That's the big question. I don't control the market. I always say, I'm like Sergeant Joe Friday. I only report the facts, just the facts, man, right?
So let's walk through what a customer experiences when they work with you, from the very first meeting to the closing table. What's the journey like with Seaflight Homes?
Sure. So from first meeting, as you can tell, I'm a very, very honest, blunt person. I sit down with them. I have a conversation. I try to really dive into their desires, their wants, their needs, their motivation, and I get they're reluctant, right? Nobody wants to their motivation because they don't want it to be used against them. Like I tell them, I'm not here to use anything against you. I'm here to just see if I can help you achieve your goal, or if your goal is really achievable, right? Because, if you want, you want $1 million for your house, but your house is a $600,000 house, my advice to you is maybe wait. Maybe in another 10, 20 years, maybe the market will be up at that $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds funny, but it's the truth. I can't change the market. And if you don't have a motivation to sell and you're just like, well, if I get my $1 million, I'll sell my house. And you're looking for that needle in the haystack. It's like, just go play the lottery. You probably have a better chance of hitting that than selling your $600,000 house for $1 million, right?
Yeah.
So, that, and so you just have to have that conversation, that honesty with them. But once you kind of dig down to the root cause, what they're really trying to do, can we achieve it? And does it make sense from a financial standpoint for them? Because again, me, it's a paycheck. I'm very fortunate and blessed. I'm going to make a living one way or another. But this is huge for you. You're moving. You could be moving out of state. You could be moving next door, but you're moving. Your finances are going to be changing. Whether you have a mortgage or you don't have a mortgage. Again, what you're trying to achieve matters more than anything. So once we can kind of hammer that down, once we can have that real conversation and I can peel that back and you start telling me a little bit more about what you're really looking to do, then we can kind of determine and assess how we move forward. So then, if whether you're buying or selling, then it's just kind of reporting back. I kind of joke, like when you're buying a home, you've got Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, My App, Realtor.com. I mean, there's countless websites, and it's like a dating sites. You go on and you're looking for a spouse. You go on all these dating sites and you swipe left and swipe right. And you see the same people on all these sites, just like you see the same homes on all these sites. And you're swiping left, you're swiping right. You're trying to date these homes. And then you're just like, hey, Phil, I know you know this home. Tell me about it. Is it a good home? Am I, just kind of like the dating, right? You're at that process. So my job is to kind of, tell you, hey, this is what I think about it. I think it's a great home. I think, CBS versus frame. What's the pros? What's the cons? Getting into those kind of things. Why I think what's the benefits? A newer home versus an older home, right? The things that I can dive into with you and have a real conversation about, is this a good home for you or not? And then when we go to look at it, the same thing. I mean, I've had customers, again, who love my honesty. We're in a home and I'll say, this is not a bad home, but it's comes covered, within overalls. You're going to have to do some work here. So if you're not a handy person or you don't have the money put into it, you may want to consider that, because, I'm a handy guy. My uncle is a general contractor. So by the time I was old enough to go help him in the summers, at 15, I was swinging hammers. So for me in my house, if I have to replace a hot water heater or I have to repair this or that, I can do it. And it's a double-edged sword because my wife knows it. So I get the honey-do list. But just having that honest conversation with them. So again, not just knowing the market conditions, but you got to know a little bit about construction so that you can tell them, like, this is the benefit of a block home, and this is the benefit of a frame home, and this is the benefit of a metal roof, and this is the benefit of a shingle roof, and what you can kind of expect with maintenance, and what you can kind of expect to get the longevity out of it, and your air conditioner, things that that matter, but obviously not at first sight. Kind of like I tell my sellers, it's like your roof matters, your AC matters. But the thing that matters most is how it looks. People buy with their eyes first and foremost, right? Because you'll get somebody say, should I paint? Because I might not pick paint color they want. I'm like, well, listen, painting to me is a no-brainer, right? You're selling a car. You're going to clean the interior. You're going to make it look really pretty. You're going to try to make the exterior look really pretty. Wash, wax it, make that thing look pristine. Nobody knows what's going on under the hood, but we're going to make it look really good. It's the same thing with a home. should I change out the flooring? I don't want to change out the carpet. I think I'm throwing money away. Again, people buy with their eyes. Even if they're going to rip it out tomorrow, put in the new carpet, make it look nice. There's plenty of information online and TV shows, HGTV or whatever, that show you like this is what needs to be done. I almost feel like they call me and try to ask for permission for me to say it's okay not to do those things. And I'm always like, well, if you're an investor and you're flipping a home over for the next tenant, the two big things you do is flooring and the paint.
Right.
Make it look good. People buy with their eyes, and that covers most of your house, the flooring and the paint. Then you got your curb appeal. These are little things, go a long way. But again, they're going to help you in the long run. Maybe it's not going to add $100,000 to your pocket, but it's going to help move your home faster. And especially today, I joke with people a little bit. I'm sure back in the day, when I was younger, it was always find the ugliest home in the best neighborhood and go get some sweat equity.
Yep.
And sweat equity today is like a dirty word, at least here in Florida. The young kids, they don't want to do it. They'd rather just be done and not have to deal with it. And the older generation, we've been there, done that, got the toothbrush, and I don't want to have to do it again. Why are there so many investors today? Because they know that, hey, I can pick up that home, put in that little bit of stuff, turn around and flip it for a profit. Well, if you don't want the investor to make the profit, you want to get that retail number, spend a little bit of money, make it look nice, make it look, have friends and family come in. How do you feel? How do you like it? Like, make it declutter, inviting, light, bright. These things are out there. They're in my listing packet. I go over it with every seller because what are you selling? You're selling not just a home. You're selling a home. You're selling a community. You're selling a lifestyle, right? And why this home? Why this community? What's so great about it? That's where the descriptions come in. That's where the pictures come in. The video comes in. The old adage, you never get a second chance to make a great first impression. Your home and that virtual open house that's online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, have it look at the best it's ever going to look for those pictures and videos, because that's what people are going to see. They're going to see it blasted all over. And, I get people like, they're either collectors or they like a certain theme, and they're always like, well, that's plain Jane. And I'm like, I get it. It's a blank canvas. It's plain Jane. But again, those old analogies, I always look at it as like cast net fishing, right? You're throwing out your cast net. You're trying to get something. So you're just pulling everything in hopes that you get that bait or whatever you're looking for, right? Well, it's kind of the same thing. You want to make it as appealing as possible so that you get as many eyes on it, because you're looking for one buyer. That one buyer gets your home sold. So let's make it appealing. Let's get people in the door, and let's see if we can get it sold.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. And, Phil, thank you so much for sharing your story, wisdom, and heart with us today. It's clear why so many families trust you to guide them through one of life's biggest decisions. For our listeners, if you're considering a move to Florida's stunning Treasure Coast, whether it's Vero Beach, Stewart, Jupiter, Port St. Lucie, or anywhere in between, Phil and his team at Sea Flag Homes are ready to help you every step of the way. You can learn more and connect with Phil at seaflaghomes.com or through the links in the show notes. And if you're looking to get pre-approved or want to discuss your financing options, I'd love to help you personally. Visit dreamhomepodcast.com or reach out to me, John Nagle at CMG Home Loans. Be sure to subscribe to the Dream Home Podcast, leave us a review, and share today's episode with anyone who could use a little inspiration for their next move. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time. Phil, thanks again. We really appreciate your taking time, and you have a great story there, and I can see why you're so successful in the Treasure Coast.
Hey, thank you, John, and thank you for this opportunity. It was a blessing to talk with you. And yeah, I'd love the opportunity to further our conversation. Thank you. Have a blessed day.
All right, you as well.
Thanks for listening to the Dream Home Podcast, hosted by John Nagle. Ready to take the next step toward your dream home? Visit www.dreamhomepodcast.com for resources, tips, and expert advice. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, leave a review, and join us next time for more real estate insights and mortgage tips. Until then, happy home hunting.